In this video, I'm going to show the lava boss. I've decided to show a little bit more than I usually do when I show character stuff. Usually I'd either just show the character's blueprint or the in-game stuff. So this is the original sculpture for the lava boss. Um, and I'm obviously not this is not what I do a lot. I don't really do a lot of sculptures, but I can kind of get what I need most of the time. Um, for me, it's still a fairly time-consuming process, even though the sculpting is supposed to be the quick part, but it's just not what I do a lot. So, but anyway, I can kind of get what I need out of it. So again, with my whole project on basically every level, I try and keep things fairly simple. And yeah, so the design of this thing and everything about it is fairly simple. So there's not too much to it. I had an original design in my head, a very vague one, and I kind of fleshed it out as I worked on the sculpture. And that's actually what's cool about the sculpting process is you can kind of find the final thing a little bit easier than I'll say traditional modeling. Since I don't draw really and I don't really work from concepts or anything like that, that's kind of how I go about things. Um, so that's the sculpture. I mean, you can see I don't go into huge detail, just enough so the normal map has enough stuff to um, give decent shading. And really the surface details and stuff, even though there's a little bit in the sculpture, is coming mostly from the diffuse map and then turning it into a normal map surface detail. So yeah, that's the sculpt part of it. So in 3D Studio I've got the low poly mesh now. So see, it's fairly low poly actually. I think it's about 16,000, so it's about 16,000 triangles, just over. Considering how big this thing is, that's actually quite a small amount. Um, so, just like with everything else in the game, I keep it simple, I keep it low poly, I keep it easy to process, so hopefully the game will end up running on a very wide range of hardware. I don't really do any level of detail. Pretty much all my stuff is what you see is what you get. There's no real level of detail since it's a side scroller, even though it's a 3D side scroller, and you can move up and down in depth, or backwards and forwards in depth. I felt like level of detail is just not something that's going to benefit me in any way. I just keep everything at a decent level, and you can see that you can get pretty close to this guy and polygon count. Polygons really isn't a problem, even though it's so low. Um, and this is the actual normal map that goes into the game. So normal map resolution is pretty decent. It's not super sharp, but it's pretty sharp, considering the character is going to be seen like this. So with the rigging side of things, as you can see, also again, I try to just keep it simple. Although I did go ahead and create an IKFK rig, which is the idea of doing that with a manual rig is a little bit more complex, but it's not really that much more. I just felt like I would need it, and I did need it. So that's the FK, and this is the IK, and I just have a simple blend over um, from FK to IK or back, and I don't have any special controls to snap things and realign things and do. I just deal with it as you know, within the animation as I need to. It's just to keep the rig simple, or the rigging time down. uh, Skinning. So the idea for this monster was that he's pretty much made out of lava, and he's covered in these rock plates, or whatever you want to call it. And you know, the cool the a cool way to do it would be to have these rock plates actually shift as he moves. But the amount of work involved in doing that is pretty big. So obviously I decided against that. So my thoughts on the skinning was just to get it as smooth as possible, so that yes, the rocks stretch and all that, but you know, so what? Um, so a kind of a method that I use in 3D Studio to get really smooth skinning on a higher poly. I mean, even though this is fairly low poly, it's actually starting to get pretty high poly with regards to skinning. Um, you know, it becomes a bit of a pain to actually sit and paint, or you know, whatever the tools. I mean, use envelopes or whatever the case might be to actually get really nice skinning on this. So Max has a really cool tool that allows me to get it extremely easily. Um, so people who use Max probably knows about this, but this is a really cool thing to use in your skinning pipeline if what you have is a really high poly character and what you need is a really soft skinning on it. So I recreated this really low poly cage around it, placing the verts very specifically in where I want um, sort of the bones, so you can see where the bones go. So this bone will control this loop, and so on. Fairly specifically placing the edges there, and you can see it kind of follows the shapes of the uh, quote unquote muscle, you know, or rock plate shapes here. Um, and so what I do is I skin this thing, and you know, this thing obviously is way easier to skin than the high poly guy. Um, so you can see just weight those loops pretty cleanly. Um, and then what you can do is you can bake down those vertex weights. You can actually bake it down to the high poly mesh, and that's what gives me the super smooth skinning. So you can see that it's the high poly is doing pretty much what the low poly is doing. And the tool is called skin wrap. So I skin wrap it based on the face. So you can skin wrap it based on the vertex weight, or the weight based on the actual polygon. And so if you look at this guy, so you can see on the polygon there's a fall off between vertices, and you want that fall off to bake down into the high poly mesh vertices below that. And so you can do that with the per face skinning method, or skin wrap method, and then you bake down the skin wrap into an actual skin. So there's the skin wrap in the modifier list, bake it down to a skin, and then disable the skin wrap, and you've got a you know, you've got a skin on there, and you may or may not end up with something that's exactly like 100% usable after doing that. And what I did is I made sure that this low poly bakes out a skin that is 100% usable after the fact. As you can see, like in the fingers, for instance, I want pretty much vertex to vertex control. I want to skin those manually very precisely. And so in my low poly mesh, I have that set up very precisely. And when I bake it down, it bakes down exactly what I have in the low poly to the to the high poly. So a little thing like doing that can go a long way in kind of, let's just get this. Yep. Um, if I don't do this, then I have to come in afterwards and edit the high poly skin and then reskin the fingers essentially. So what I wanted to get is, after doing the low poly and skin wrapping it, it's done. And so if I made any mesh adjustments, uh, re-optimized the polygons, did anything, and I need to readjust the skin, all I do is I rebake it and it's done. There's nothing else to do. So yeah, so I went on quite a bit about the skinning, but anyway, I just wanted to show this is a pretty cool method, and it's a huge time saver, because skinning this low poly guy, might take you minutes, versus skinning the high poly guy might take you hours. It's there's a huge time saver in doing something like this. But anyway, so that's, I guess, the sort of the external stuff. So now in the game engine, finally, um, let's go to Lava Boss. So this is it finally in the game engine, and got the kind of the lava looking stuff underneath and the rocky looking stuff. The lighting in this preview thing doesn't really complement the model all too much, but there it is. So it is made up of two materials. Pretty much the head and the arms is one material, and the rest of the body is one material. And really, the reason for that is very simple. I originally decided that I'm not going to have any texture map in my game that's bigger than 1024 by 1024. The reason for this is also kind of simple, and might sound a little bit weird or stupid. Sorry, I just saw that I did stuff before, and I probably saved it when I shouldn't have saved it. But anyway, so the reason for that is a little bit maybe weird or whatever. But when I started the project, it was in the UDK, and it was also um, the UDK, the UDK, in the UDK you could do higher res textures, but it always seemed like if you did stuff at higher res texture, it didn't preview like that in the editor, and maybe there was some setting somewhere that you could tweak or whatever, and it always took much longer to import, even just a 2048. And I think that's probably still the case in UE4. It's one of those things where, if I have to wait 10 seconds instead of 2 seconds, I don't like it, and I want to make something change that can make me wait 2 seconds instead of 10 seconds. So, that might sound for like a stupid reason to keep my cap at 1024. That really was the reason for doing that, and so that's why the boss is actually two materials. So the boss can be one 2048 by 2048, and it would be just fine. But when I set that limit, that was it, and I was going to stick to it. And so here's actually two draw calls ultimately because of that instead of one. But again, so what? He's two instead of one. So a long explanation for something really stupid, but Anyway, so there's the boss. Um, let's get to his character stuff. So his animations, so far I have just a few animations. It's the idle, the main throwing attack, and the main ground bashing attack. And I've shown video previously of the boss in game doing a few things. Some of the work that I've done recently is so that you can, when you attack him back, he actually can go into his next stages. So you can actually, you can attack his arms, and so he'll happily go into his attack mode and throw rocks at you or do whatever. At some point he's going to decide he's had enough of that. He's going to try and let rocks crush you from above. Um, so he's going to do that. Now he's going to be tired, and now I can attack him. So there he goes, and I've broken his arm. So I've made it really easy to break his arm, obviously for testing purpose, and now he goes into a new state. So now he's got a broken arm, and now he throws with only the one arm. And now he also hits with only the one arm. So little things like that takes a bit of setup to get that, but it's all done. It's all there, and obviously I have a lot of effects work to do on the guy, but all that stuff works, and I still actually have to work on his close-up attack. So currently what happens, he's got two major states, one when you're far away and one when you're close. When you're far away, he throws rocks at you. When you're close, he's supposed to swipe at you, or hit you or grab you or whatever. I'm seriously considering trying to do a grab. That entails much more work than you can think when you just think, oh, the boss grabs you. But it entails quite a bit of work to actually get that. But I'm kind of considering doing it. It would be a cool thing. Um, none of that, none of the close attack stuff is set up yet. But he's got the state for it. So currently in that state change, he just goes to idle. Um, so I've got those animations, and of course when he does only one arm attacks, he's got separate animations for that, and then he's also got an animation for crushing the rock. So really the idea there is if I force a state change after he grabbed the rock, which I'm going to try and do now. So he grabs the rock, and I'm not successfully doing that, but he grabs a rock and I force a state change. Instead of having him finish what he was doing, meaning he was busy going to throw a rock, and having him finish throwing the rock, I thought it would be cool if he just stops right there and crushes the rock and then goes into his new state. And it's just a cool little thing. So I have animations for that. And yeah, so he doesn't have a lot of animations currently, but yeah, it's and and very likely none of these animations I can consider really done. Maybe some of them are very close to being done, but yeah, I mean all of this stuff is done very quickly just to get the boss in and try and get his functionality going. I'm I'm not one of those people that can sit and program the whole thing before I do anything else. I have to see it. I have to create it. I have to see it. I have to animate it. I have to do all that stuff so I can see what's going on. I have to, and I don't use boxes and stuff like that. I use the actual thing. That's just the way I work, and that's the way I like to work. So that's the way I do it. Um, so yeah, on the blueprint side, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to break this video here, and I'll show on the blueprint side I'll show in the next video. So for anybody who watched this, thanks for watching. If there's any questions about anything I've shown, questions about showing more of what of some certain parts, please let me know either on the messages, YouTube messages, or if you happen to come across this through the Unreal Engine 4 forums, just leave a message in the forum. And yep, so that's it for this video. Thanks.